Okay, we're back and we should have multiple screens added to our app here. We have screen one, which is our intro, and then all of your questions. Now, I only have three. You may have more than that, and that's great. So what we're going to do next is figure out how to connect the pages. So let's go back and look at what we wanted here. We have take the quiz button needs to go to question one. Then we have three options, and then we have a next button that will go to question two. And then on the question two page, the next button will go to question three, and so on. And then eventually we'll make a page at the end that says, congratulations, you finished the app, with a button that goes back home. So let's take a look in Thunkable and learn how to connect different pages using buttons. So this section right here is called blocks. We've been working on the designer tab. This section is called blocks. This will look familiar to you if you've done any kind of block-based coding. And what we want to do is grab the button one over here. This is what we want to code. We want to make it so that when someone clicks on button one, they're taken to the next screen. So this is what we're selecting, button one, and the very top one says when button one is clicked. So what happens is when that button is clicked, something will happen. Let's look in the control section. We want to control that button. We're going to choose open another screen, and then we're going to give it a name. So we thunk these together. We call that thunking. All right, so we've got button one, open another screen, and then we have to give it a name. So we're going to use an empty text block for that. All the way at the top of the pink section here is an empty text block. Now we want to make it exactly what we called the next screen. So we're on screen one right now, and we need to code the next button to go to question one. For me, I did a capital Q and a number one, and that's what I want to have there. So now if I go back to designer, I know that this button, when it's tapped, it will open the next screen. Now it's not actually going to do it in our browser window here, but it will do it when we test the app. So let's go ahead to our next screen, question one, and we're going to code this next button. It'll be the same exact thing. It's actually button four. It's our fourth button you can see over here. Then we'll go into our block section here. We'll click button four. It's the same thing. When button four is clicked, we open another screen, and it's called, this time, question two. Okay, so you're going to go through all of your screens and code your next buttons. I'm going to pause the video, and then we will talk about how to code these three buttons. Okay, so go ahead and go through and code all of your next buttons, except for the very last one, because we have not yet talked about our final screen. So go ahead and code all of the next buttons, and I will see you back here when you're ready. Okay, so now you should have all of your next buttons coded. What we need to talk about now is these three different options for our multiple choice question. We want each of these to do a different task too. So we're going to code that next. So my question was, which branch of government is comprised of the Senate and the House of Representatives? The answer to that is legislative. So that's the correct answer. I want two things to happen. You'll notice here in my planning worksheet, I had this one green and the other two red, meaning I want that one to turn green. It's gray right now, but I want it to turn green when someone presses it. So I'm going to go into my blocks section and I'm going to code the color now. And I want it so that when that button one, because legislative was button one, when button one is clicked, I want to change the background color. So I click on button one again, and I can do set button one background color to, and I'm going to select my color green. So it's right over here in that color section, and you can thunk those together. I also want something else to happen. I want to have a fun sound effect, and I'm going to show you that in a little bit. I'm going to do the other two buttons, and then we'll look at how to grab sounds and put those in here as well. So button two is going to turn red. Just to give you a quick tip, you can right click on this green one, on any of them really, and duplicate, which sometimes is faster. With this one, we have to actually grab that and throw it out and get a red one because we want the wrong answer to turn red. I also need to do this with button 3. I'm going to duplicate the whole thing this time. Notice how I got a little red X here? That means that there's something wrong, and my problem right now is that I have button 2 clicks. We don't want that to happen. They each have their own coding block. So there we go. So now all 4 of my buttons are coded to do what I want. I also want a sound effect. So what we're going to do is open a new tab, and we're going to use a site called freesfx.co.uk. That is a website where there are free royalty or copyright friendly sounds that you can use in projects. I'm going to be going to the cartoon section, and I want 2 sounds. I want a happy sound for when they got it correct, and I want a sad sound for when they get it wrong. So the ascent section maybe would be a good place to start for thinking of a positive sound. And you can listen to them by clicking on the arrow here, the play button. Okay, I like that one a lot, so I'm going to go ahead and download it. I'm going to press on the download button, and it shows up down here. All right, and then I also need to find when I'm going to go back and find like a negative sound, something that sounds like it's not that great. I'm going to just click on cartoon and comical right here, and then maybe a bang or a boink. So let's see what this one sounds like. I like that one. That's good. Okay, so that's my bad sound. So I'm going to go ahead and download this one. So I need to pay attention to these numbers. It's just going to give it a random number. As a file name, I just am going to try to remember that the one that starts with 17 is my good sound and 16 is my bad sound. So here I go back into Thunkable. I'm going to go to my designer tab, and I'm going to drag a sound element over. I can collapse this section by clicking here, and then I'm going to click on media and grab a sound element and just drag it over to my screen. It's an invisible element, so they won't actually see it here. You can see it below. But what that does is it gives us something to code in the block section. So now that we've put the sound element there, we can see it's right here. We can use that and code it. So I do need to go back and actually attach my file to that sound element. So it's selected right here. I need to get my source. The source for that sound is the file that I downloaded. Sound 1 is going to be my good sound, this first one that begins with 17. So I'm actually going to be looking in my downloads folder. It's probably in there somewhere. And it's this one right here because it was downloaded on today's date with the 17. And I'm going to say okay. And I'll say okay. So now that sound is in there. I need to now drag a second sound element over for my negative sound. Sound 2 is going to be the bad sound. And I'm going to grab the file that begins with a 16 for that one. And let's see here, right here, 16. And today, this is the date that I'm recording this. So open and okay. So now I have 2 sound elements with 2 source files ready to go. So I'm going to go back to my blocks, and I'm not only going to change the color when they tap on each of these elements, I'm also going to play a particular sound. So this was the correct button, so I need the good sound for that. So that's sound 1. So I'm going to do call sound 1 play. So when button 1 is clicked, set the background color to green and play the positive sound. We're going to do the negative sound for these 2. So let's go to sound 2, call sound 2 play. And we'll put those right in there. Okay, I'm going to do the same exact thing for button 3 because both of those were incorrect. So now when the user taps on button 1, they'll hear a positive sound and the button will turn green. When they tap on either of these 2, they'll hear a negative sound and the button will turn red. This button right here will go to the next screen. All right, so in the next video, I'm going to show you how to make a final screen. And before then, what you need to do is do the coding for the rest of your pages. In order to save you a little bit of time, I'm just going to show you a quick trick that might help you out. Let's go into the block section. I can actually drag a whole section into my backpack so that I have it here. So when I'm on another screen, I can go into the backpack and get that coding. Just remember that you have different questions. So there's that to think of. All right, see you in the next video.